Hello, everyone. I'm so happy you joined me for another episode of Lifelong Learners. For this week's episode, I want to dive deeper into the world of autism and stimming. I am also going to talk about autism and stimming from my lived experience. Now, let's dive into the world of autism and stimming from my lived experience. If you are interested in listening to more episodes of Lifelong Learners, you can check out my YouTube channel, Lifelong Learners, and you can also find me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Come along for the ride. Holly Tetreault. Let me tell you what stimming is because so many people either don't know what stimming is or they just don't care. Autistic individuals use stimming as a way to self soothe when they are anxious or stressed out. Sometimes people with autism stim when they are happy, excited, angry, frustrated, upset. Stims can be used to express emotions to other people. I find that stimming helps me when I'm stressed out. Over the years, my stims have changed because when I first started stimming, I would twirl my hair, stomp my feet, clap my hands, and vocal stim. As the years went on, I noticed I would vocal stim, for example, saying one word over and over again. Other times, I would find myself yelling certain words or phrases over and over to cope with a stressful situation. Sometimes I stim when I get bored or I need something to do. Stimming with fidget toys helps me to focus on my schoolwork. Some of my favorite fidget toys are my weighted lap pad because when I need to focus on something or need something to calm down, I would place this weighted lap pad on my lap, and the weight of this pad is comforting to me. I still find myself masking my stims due to having to hide them for so long. Also, I am still finding my comfort zone when it comes to trusting people and telling people that I stim. Some days I prefer to be by myself when nobody is around because that's when I feel the most comfortable being myself. The most common reason I stim is because of sensory overload. Having autism and learning about stimming has been an emotional roller coaster because there are times where people think that I am just overreacting or just doing these things for attention. I want to make a few things clear. Stimming is a way that I cope with stress, and it's helpful for me to stim instead of trying to hide or mask my stims unless it's causing me any harm. I was suppressing my stims for a very long time because society told me years ago that stimming wasn't acceptable when I was in grade school, and it was hard for me to find coping skills that worked for me because the one thing that would have helped me when I was younger was knowing what stimming was instead of going through not having the knowledge that stimming is part of who I am. If I knew back then that I was stimming, I probably wouldn't have ended up in Brattleboro Retreat in 2018. And my teachers would have better understood that the sensory overload and stimming was due to my stims being suppressed for so many years, and it just came out all at once. I want other people to know that stimming is normal for autistic individuals. And something that I go by when it comes to stimming is that is as long as the stim or stims isn't causing the person any harm to themselves or others, then let them stim. Stimming is a way that I express happiness, sadness, fear, and many other emotions. When I have a hard time finding words to put with those emotions, when I found out about stimming in college, it was like all of the missing pieces of the puzzle came together. And over time, I've been able to let myself stim and be who I am as a person. Having autism and my stims doesn't make me any less of a person. And if people think that I am weird because I repeat my own words, snap my fingers, clap my hands, or, you know, even twirl my own hair, these are only some of my stims, and I have so many other stims that are too long to list. The reasons that I am talking about my experiences is to help others realize that they are not alone in this scary world. There are people who are going through the same experiences or similar experiences and are afraid to speak up and be who they are. I got my autism diagnosis in April of 2012, and it was hard to suppress my stims because I would come home completely exhausted, and I would always hide in my bedroom so nobody would see what it was like for me to hold it together all day and come home and just burn out. I wasn't allowed to have fidget toys in elementary, middle, or high school because the teachers saw the fidget toys as a distraction to the other kids, so no one was allowed to have them. Having to suppress my stims for 10 plus years was hard, not only on my mental health, but I wasn't able to do the one thing I needed to do to take care of myself. I felt like many of my teachers were too protective of me because I wasn't allowed to do dual enrollment at GCC until After I graduated from high school, sometimes I wish I was listened to in high school. And this is probably another reason my stimming came to the surface years ago, because I felt like I had no other way to express how I was feeling. Stimming is a way for me to cope with sensory overload, with change, and many different situations around me. There is just so much stigma in the world right now, and there was just so much stigma back then, and like I just said, there is still a lot of stigma with autism right now. People don't want to believe the science about autism. They want to keep spreading lies about autism. And what we need in this world right now is for people to accept autistic individuals for who they are. We need to be funding more services for autistic adults. There is so much going on in our world, and why do we need to stop autistic individuals from stimming? It's like telling us to stop taking care of ourselves. I don't care what other people think of me when I need to stim. Stimming is my body's way of soothing itself. I want to advocate for others like me and let people know that stimming is okay. And my stims are amazing, and it helps people like me, and it helps me when I'm stressed out and when I'm happy. From my experience, stims are a part of who I am, and we should be accepting of autistic individuals, and we should be listening to autistic individuals. I also want to make stimming a normal thing because stims are a natural part of being on the autism spectrum. If stims aren't causing harm or interfering with the person's life, then let them stim. I have many stims, and most of the time I will be vocal stimming. My experiences with stims and stimming will be different than yours. It might feel awkward at first, and people might not understand why you need to stim. I am educating with facts from my own lived experiences, so people will understand that stimming is a natural thing that autistic individuals do. As I have said before, having autism doesn't make you any less human. People judge what they don't understand, and they just see the limitations. I am also learning that stimming helps me cope with grief and loss, which I will go into more detail in the next episode of Lifelong Learners. That's all for this week's episode of Lifelong Learners. This week I talked about stimming from my own lived experience. Next week I will talk about how I process grief and death from my own lived experience. If you want to listen to more episodes of Lifelong Learners, you can go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Lifelong Learners Podcast. I want to thank Alex, everyone at GCC, and my fans for helping me get the facts about autism and stimming out there. See you next week. Holly Tetreault.